to the invocation. I'm sorry. Thank you. This meeting is being recorded. Councilwoman Ferguson, which is the invocation, please.
Father God, we just give you the glory and the honor. We thank you for another day that we have not seen before. We ask that you would be in our midst as we discuss the business of the city, that you would afford us with wisdom, direction, and knowledge. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Councilwoman Jones,
Good evening, here.
Councilman Herring,
Here.
Councilman Hairston,
Here.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Here.
Councilwoman Fareed,
Here.
Vice President Ferguson,
Here.
President Curtis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Ms.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Jones, seconded by Ms. Fareed, Councilwoman Fareed, and Councilwoman Jones. Any discussion? Okay, with that, Madam Clerk, vote to accept the agenda.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston,
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fareed,
Yes.
Vice President Ferguson,
Yes.
President Curtis.
Yes.
This is passed. We have 7.
Okay. First up is the presentation of the constant yield. Ms. Barber, did you want to?
Thank you, President Curtis, and thank you, council members. Just wanted to give a little bit of information about the constant yield and exactly what it is. The constant yield is a tax rate that the city sets every year during budget season, that with that rate, when it's applied to the new assessments in the homes of the city, would result in the city receiving the same amount of tax revenue that it did in the prior year. So typically the constant yield rate is lower than the current tax rate, because in order to get the same amount of money, you would have to have less of a tax rate on those increased assessments of the homes. In doing some research, the state did say that on average, homes in Maryland, particularly in Prince George's County, did appreciate about 12% on their assessment. So if you had a $250,000 home, last year, that assessment was $250,000. This year, that assessment most likely would be somewhere close to $280,000 because of the increased value that your home appreciated. So I do have an example that, if I could share my screen, kind of runs through what that would look like for a citizen, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, hopefully you can see the example.
Can you increase the font, please?
I can try to
just-
increase the size
there you
of
go.
it. Is that better?
Thank you.
Okay, so taking that average home, like I said, last year's assessment of a $250,000 home, the taxes would be based on the assessed amount, which is per $100, which would be $2,500. And our current tax rate is 0.3481, which meant that your tax payment would be $870.25. If we were to go with the constant yield rate of 0.3338, again, that lowered rate, because in order to receive the same amount of revenue, the city would have to lower their tax rate, it would be $834.50. So the savings to the homeowner, if the city lowers the constant yield, is $35.75. The foregone revenue for the city by lowering the constant yield is $121,000, 115. If, again, you looked at that same home with the increased assessment based on that 12% appreciation in 2022, when the assessments are done, it would be worth $280,000. The assessment, again, per $100 is $2,800 times the current tax rate that we are proposing, holding the tax rate steady, that 3481.3481. The new tax bill for the resident would be $974.68, or a real increase of $104.43. But again, the revenue for the city would be an extra $121,115. So I just wanted to put that kind of in layman's terms so folks could see that. Now, I know people will say, well, $250,000, that's not much of a home, but that was a good round number to use. And it's not, not too low, not too high. So hopefully that gives some insight into what the tax rate affects homeowners and how it affects the city's bottom line. Now that does take into consideration new property or new construction added to the tax rolls for the first time. That's subtracted from the calculation. And abatements and other deletions are also counted for people who have like the homestead requirement where they don't have their taxes increased and things like that. So I just wanted to let you know and let the citizens know that a couple of the reasons that the administration is proposing holding the tax rate steady is due to a number of increases that we've seen in the current budget that were no fault of our own. Those increases include a most likely increase in trash, because we have seen with the 3-month proposal from Good Trash, CGI Residential Incorporated, that they are raising our trash rate to $53,000 when it was $35,000 per month. So we are primed to see an increase in the cost to bring recycle and solid waste services to our citizens. The other thing is just the cost of doing business has gotten higher. Gas prices for our police cars are higher. For our public works vehicles are higher. And electricity is higher for keeping the lights on here at City Hall. Other things that are in the budget that are being brought on that are part of the reason why we're wanting to have that tax rate held steady is the investment in our parks and also in paving. We did put in not only the 3rd Street paving, which is a holdover from this fiscal year, but we put in an additional $250,000 for other paving of streets throughout the city. And we will have that RFP ready by the time that the fiscal year starts, and hopefully have a contractor in place to do that paving before the end of the paving season in the fall and the winter. So that's just a few of the things that are driving the administration wanting to hold the tax rate steady at 0.3481. And I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager Barber. With that, are there any? We'll open up the floor for citizens' comments. If you have a comment relating to the constant yield, please either raise your virtual hand or you can unmute yourself and speak up to be recognized. Okay. Without seeing any comments, public comments, we'll move on to the next item on agenda, which is the vote on the constant yield rate. Do I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
Point of order, Mr. President, have we decided which rate we're going to use?
I thought we was going to talk about it in
Oh, how
discussion.
about it? Okay, all right, go ahead. Yeah,
Um,
I make the motion.
Okay. Second,
Second.
Ms. Harrison, discussion.
Yes, have we decided which are we going to do? What is Ms. Barber, 0.33 or 0.34?
The current tax rate is 0.3481. The constant yield is 0.3338.
Okay. So are we gonna, I guess it depends. So if we keep the 0.34, that's basically a tax increase for the citizens.
It is a tax increase for the citizens, yes, sir. But it is also a revenue loss for the citizens in so much as that's $121,000 of services that we would have to look at taking out of the budget.
But I do know that in the city, I mean, not the city, the county hasn't even set their rate yet for the city. They're waiting for us to set our rate so they can set their rate for us also. I think we're at 0.88 now. And if we don't take this money, they'll probably take our rate up to 0.81 because it'll be still under low enough to be under trim. So I think my feeling is, I mean, either we take it or the county's going to take it. The citizens are not going to see a tax savings. They're going to, if we don't get it, the county's going to take it. The county's going to raise the rate up anyway on that piggyback tax that they have.
And so you are in favor of the 0.3481?
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments from from council members? Any other discussion?
Yes, Council President. I don't think you saw my hand.
Sorry, Councilman
That's
Fareed.
okay. So I just want to make sure I'm clear, Ms. Barber. Keeping the 0.34 amount will keep us at the same level of service that we currently have, but accounting for the increase in what that current level of service would cost. So basically, the current level of service that we have is the price is going up, as you mentioned, with the gas prices and also with the cost of the garbage. So if we did not do the 0.34, how would we pay for those additional fees? Would we have to take it out of reserves? What would we do?
So the current budget is balanced by taking, I think, approximately $500,000 out of reserve, but that's still using the 0.3481. And Mr. Stewart, you can correct me if I'm incorrect on that. So we would have to look to cut parts of the budget, whether that's cutting capital projects or whether that's cutting operating costs to the departments that have indicated that those dollars are what they need to get the job done to maintain services to our residents here in the city.
Okay, so with the 0.3481 right now, the way that we're balancing is by already taking out an additional $500,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question as it relates to some of the things. Well, it's kind of interesting the position we're in because we're trying to do this without having you know, a solid budget to go along with it. But in constructing the budget, were there things identified in the budget that could be used for the ARPA funds so we could balance it that way?
So the problem with using the ARPA funds for capital projects is not really a problem. But the problem with using it for balancing the operating part of the budget is a problem because those funds are going to be gone in 2 years. In 2026, those funds will be depreciated. And you will still have those operating expenditures on the books to maintain that level of service. So that is a problem. You trying to balance the budget with ARPA funds. Now, could you use it? I think we had a discussion last night about could you use the ARPA funds to do some things in the police department or in the public works department that I believe Councilwoman Guillaume was going to check on. That's a possibility. And it's also a possibility that we could use grant funds to fund some of the things in the capital budget. But then those grant funds would be pulling from operating. So let's take, for example, police vehicles. There are in the budget funds for 3 police vehicles, right? 1 for the chief's car and 2 for aged out vehicles to replace. If we were to use some of the grant money that we receive from the state aid for police protection, that money would have to be pulled somewhere else from in the operating budget. So that's why balancing the budget with grants is always problematic.
Councilwoman Fareed?
Yes, Ms. Barber, have you identified if we were to go with the lower rate and that you're saying that we would need to take out money from the operating budget, have you already identified what the potential cuts would be in order to do that lower rate?
No, ma'am, we haven't identified those, but some of the low-hanging fruit would obviously be increases in salaries. That would be one of the low-hanging fruit, that COLA would go away, the merit increase would go away. Capital projects would not be funded, some like those police vehicles that are sorely needed. So there are a number of different things that we could look at to fulfill that missed opportunity. But we would look to the council to assist us in making those selections based on what you feel your residents would be willing to forego.
Okay, I mean, the challenge is it already seems like the level of services that we're providing aren't meeting the expectations. So cutting them back even further, I think would hurt the city. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily sound like the increase is being driven by an increase in services or an improvement in services. Is basically the increase is being driven by inflation, right? That we're trying to cover that cost. And without us knowing, you know, specifically what we could cut out, like what capital expenditures could we cut out? What, you know, I'm looking like at events. I mean, there's not a ton of money in there, but I'm just generally not in favor of increasing taxes on people if we're not providing improved services or an increase in services.
Right, and I understand where you're coming from, but realize that some of those services that you speak of are costing more, and we are able to maintain the level of service with the current proposed budget. We're not, you know, unfortunately, like I said, you know, there are some enhancements in there with the street paving, curb and gutters, some systems upgrades that we need here. in the finance department with, to prevent hacking and things like that, are included in the budget that we could forego for another year. But there may be some missed opportunity there. The cable channel is one thing that is in the budget that we could say, well, we won't be, coming back in the building. So, in the near future. So, we'll forego that for this year, and we'll just work with the equipment that we have, and we'll make do and do the best that we can to provide services and provide videotaping and things like that of events for the residents.
Mhm. And so just, I'm bringing you back into this, Councilman Herring, because I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. It sounds like what you're saying is that there's going to be an increase to the citizens, whether the increase comes from the city of Glenarden or the increase comes from the county. If the increase comes from the city of Glenarden, that will at least allow us to maintain our current level of service. If the increase comes from the county, though, our services will be reduced here, and there will be there won't be any additional services provided by the county to kind of meet that gap. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilwoman Jones.
Yeah, in reviewing some of the budget, going over some of the budget that's been proposed by the administration, there's several things in there that can be adjusted to ensure that this level of service to the citizens is provided. I think at this juncture, the level of service is not being provided is because we're not moving forward with the things that we have. The Ward 3 street project has been going on for years. There's monies in the budget to do that, and we can add additional monies for that and have that done. We can't just go and do in my opinion, to do the whole city at one time in street paving is ridiculous. We need to do section by section and point by point. Ward 3 has not been done. We need to complete Ward 3. And then there's a couple of sections that I see in Ward 2 that sorely need to be addressed. We can address those and then wait until the next year. As far as the cable is concerned, we get a PEG grant. We have money in our PEG grant, public education grant, that provides for that cable television station so that things can be done. We have not put anybody in there to get those things done, to even use those funds. So say that citizens are going to lose a level of service if we take a lower rate in the tax in the council yield is just unfounded to me. Because if we sit down and look at the budget, there's several areas in that budget which I'm sure that we'll go over and see. And this myth, to me, it's a myth of aging police cars. We've been buying police cars since I've been on the council the first 4 years. They have 4 cars that I've seen, the inventory that I have, 2 of them that they don't even use anyway. That white Chevy Tahoe truck, they don't use that anyway. They haven't used that since I've been on the council. I think they've used it one time when somebody put their vehicle in the shop for services, but it hasn't been used. It's been sitting out back for a long time. We just sold some vehicles, and we bought vehicles since, like I said, since I've been on the council. The first year, I think we bought 4 or 2, and then we bought 2, and then we bought 4, and then we just bought 2 or 4 more. So this aging fleet is a myth, and I would appreciate it if the administration would do an inventory of the vehicles for the police and see, which I have in my hand, which
Yes,
was
ma'am.
given to me, and it doesn't. The fleet is not like it's broke down. It's getting ready to go into the junkyard tomorrow. That fleet is not to the point where we don't have to buy police cars this year because we've been buying police cars. If anyone needs cars, it would be Public Works. Not even Public Works, because we just bought a truck for them, another truck. Okay. but the code enforcement people are riding around. To me, they are in Fred Flintstone cars. So that would be the fleet that I would do anything with. So this myth about these aging cars is just unfounded. If you do inventory and put your inventory in a folder, you'll see that, do physical inventory and find out, just like I have the mileage of each car, I have the year, make, and model, and the mileage on each car in the police force. And that fleet is not broken down to the point where we keep saying they have an aging fleet.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. I did do a fleet analysis, and we have currently 1/3 of the vehicles, including the 3 that you mentioned, that are close to deadlining in the back. If you include those cars, 1/3 is over 5 years old. If you include the 2018s that we have, then in 1 year, over 60% of the fleet will be over 5 years old.
Well, maybe we need to bring the fleet back. Maybe the cars need to be parked back at the city hall, and the police officers use their personal vehicles to get to work. Once they get to work, they take the vehicles. I mean, if it's coming down to that. Yeah, because I see on here 4 cars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, 2018. There are 4 2019 and 4 2021 cars. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, discussion? Councilwoman Guillaume.
Yes, thank you, Council President. And City Manager Barbara, I know you mentioned, going back again to the ARPA, I know you mentioned it again, but you already mentioned it or touched on it, but if we were to use ARPA funding this year, I know it's already in the lost revenue category, but just for this tax year, how much would we have to utilize to keep the taxes from being increased for the citizens? At the point, basically the 3.3 level, not the 0.34.
So I would look to Mr. Stewart to get into those numbers, but as I mentioned, we did, when we balanced the budget, we did pull about 500,000 from reserve. And then there is that amount of the 115,000 that would be, I think, was it 115 or 121? 115, that the tax, holding the tax rate steady would produce.
Okay. Yeah, because I just know, so us being a municipality that received less than, well, close to $5 million on down, we have more flexibility as far as usage of the ARPA dollars than others from Department of Treasury per the final rule. So that's why I'm trying to ask that particular question. It kind of goes with what you asked Councilwoman Jones yesterday. The answer is yes to the questions that were asked yesterday about can we use ARPA funds to do all the other things that we talked about. I'll talk about that at another meeting if that's okay, but sticking to the constant yield. Knowing that there's some flexibility for us as a small municipality to utilize ARPA funds to not incur additional expenses. That's why I was trying to see like what that number would look like. Like, of course, if it means we have to take 1.5 million ARPA dollars when we don't even have that much, I wouldn't recommend that for this. But I just wanted to know, like, what would that differentiating number be as far as if we were to utilize ARPA dollars, how much ARPA dollars would we be able to use? While I don't know all the specifications of what Councilwoman Jones stated as far as the sidewalks and all those things, I do know that for me, it's difficult for me to look at citizens, and tell them that this is going to maintain a level of service when they have been complaining about not receiving service at all. So it's almost as if we're saying we're going to make you pay more taxes to maintain services or to even, or to provide services when the trust isn't really there. And this is not directed towards you, City Manager Barber. This is just a general, conversation where I'm conflicted about that. I also understand what Councilman Herring stated as far as Prince George's County and the city, as far as who gets what, and what Councilwoman Fareed, broke down as well. But I tend to still struggle, I'll be honest, with being the other person who's just hearing my taxes are being raised for some services that I'm not even satisfied with in the first place. So, so that's, that's where I'm at. And I'm sorry, and since Mr. Stewart is on the call, I'm not sure if he's able to provide that or not, that the ARPA question, as far as how much, give or take, do we think we would, if we have to take money from ARPA to offset not raising taxes, how much, what would that look like? That's,
Yes,
there's
I'm
no right or
on.
wrong answer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ms. Guillaume. Yes, if we are to use the ARPA funds to deal with certain expenditures, such as the purchases of the police vehicles and so on, it still would not cause much of a change. And what I would like to go back to is the fact that there will be some improvement in services, especially within the public works department, because one of the things that we discuss with that department is the fact that they have to improve what they're doing by us giving them additional equipment to work with. So they are fully staffed now, but they need additional equipment in order to do a more comprehensive work throughout the city. So I believe, yes, there will be improved service for the next fiscal year. And I believe too, with our new city manager and a new police chief, I think there definitely will be increased productivity for the citizens. But however, the rate as it stands right now, I would prefer if we work with that, because definitely, improved services will come about that.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. If I may, because I don't have my link up right now to look at it, if you happen, or if you, City Manager Barber, or anyone, if you happen to have a copy of the proposed budget, and if we look at the payroll line item, what's that number? FYI, I'm not talking about decreasing anybody's salary or whatever. I just want to know what that line item is. I don't have, I don't want to lose my screen. So if anybody can tell me what that number is.
I don't have it open right now. It would take me a little bit of time to get into it. I apologize.
It's okay.
And the payroll is done by department. It's not one flat amount. So I don't know if Mr. Stewart has that aggregate amount of all the departments. So, because what I could show you would be the different departments. I would have to flip through each department to show you the salaries amount for each one of those, and then get an aggregate number for you.
Okay, yeah, and the reason, so I'll say why I'm asking this. So I know National League of Cities has also written about this, but more recently, I can never pronounce the name, Plante Moran, which is a large auditing firm, one of the largest auditing firms in the country. They were recommending to all their local governments that got under $10 million in ARPA funds to take it in as payroll as the standard allowance. And that the reason why they were doing that is because they're saying that that way it's easier to administer, and the revenue that they would have that they meaning municipalities, meaning us, that we would have otherwise used would be totally unrestricted as the way that ARPA isn't. So I understand that this approach I understand this approach from an administration standpoint, but from an accountability standpoint, it's still less ideal, but that's what they're doing. And I'm not just saying Plenty Moran, I'm saying like these other things as I've been following ARPA. So that's why I was asking what that number for payroll is. If we were to look at what total payroll expenses are for all teams. And again, I'm not asking to switch up the budget and stuff. I'm just, again, trying to process this. But if we can't right now, that's fine.
I'm sorry, I'm looking under expenses.
Yeah.
Dean, you can help me. Salaries and benefits. Okay. FY '22 was $101.99, $101,000.99. And FY '23 is supposed to be going up to $106,117,000. Looking at this budget that I have, the proposed FY '23.
Could you put it on screen so that we could see it?
Mr. Dean, you're asking for too much.
Okay, yeah, Council Clerk, do you have the,
Yeah, I'm pulling it now. Give me 1 second.
We're proposing $444,000 in salary expenses in FY '23.
What, I'm sorry, Councilman Herring, what page was that on?
That'd be on, it'd be on-
Revenue and resources?
yeah, on the summary page, like probably like the first or second page of the packet.
Okay,
And it has where it's rolled up, and it has salaries and benefits. FY '23, $444,000.
okay. Let me go to that page. Thank you, I appreciate that.
And I'm also placing a link in the chat, everyone, if you look at number 3 specifically.
I'm sorry, what page was that in the budget, Councilman Harry? I have it. Okay, thank you.
Oh gosh, I have to get my glasses.
If you can increase that, please, Council Clerk.
Sorry, which page was that again?
It's on the next page after this one. Scroll down if you can. Page 2. You gotta go up, you're on page 5.
I'm trying to move this thing around so I can get to the mouse. I'm sorry. Hold on, give me 1 second. I apologize.
Madam Clerk, just, you stick with your screen and I'll share my screen. Okay. said page 2 of the document.
Yeah, go up. You're on page 7. Keep on going.
No,
Keep on going, because you're in general fund. You want to be on the summary pages at the very beginning of the report.
Yeah, so this is page 6, I think.
Yeah, what's above
Oh,
this
yeah.
is only.
if you
Mm,
if you go to the one that says 6, that will be the one that carries. Number 6 on the side here where you have right.
Okay,
Go
so you
to
have revenues.
so that will be 7. Go to 7. 7. Yes, that's it. Salaries and benefits.
Okay.
so is that the 552 number?
That is the 552 for administration.
No, that's a total administration budget.
Budget, right? So the
Oh, but, oh, salary is
Oh.
444.
444 exactly.
Right, but that's just for administration. That's for human resources, myself, Mr. Jordan, the administrative assistant, Ms. Monet.
Hold on a second.
Let's see some.
Just 444.
I'm doing the math.
So
444.
if you scroll
Oh,
down,
sorry. One question here on the salaries and benefits, the 444020. That is the COLA adjustment. What's the COLA adjustment? 3%?
Yes, ma'am.
Plus a merit increase? That's because the change is 18%. So what's the other? Are we have an expected increase in our insurance premiums? Like
No,
health
that's,
insurance?
yeah,
what's making
insurance,
up that
that includes
18%?
insurance. That does include the benefits, yes, ma'am.
I know, so that's what I'm getting at. So the increase is 18%, but the COLA adjustment is 3%. So are you saying that the merit is a 15% merit increase?
No, the merit increase is only 3%.
So then why is salaries and benefits going up 18%?
Because you have increases in benefits.
So I think I know what this is. Unfortunately, with the initial submission of this budget, this is page 7. That there was an incorrect salary in there
oh
for
yes,
the city manager. It had 100.
Yeah, there's 100 and, yeah, it's an incorrect salary in there for the city manager.
Yeah. Which is skewing the numbers off. Let's see if I can find that administration. Yeah. So here, it went from 100,000 to 163,000, which was apparently a typo, but
it was a
unfortunately,
typo.
this was what was submitted and what was advertised in the budget, so we could not change it. It was not changed, but
Mm,
the administration said that that would be an edit after the budget hearing to correct it. So that's kind of skewing the percentage change.
So Council President, I just want to figure out what we're about to do. Are we about to try and go through the budget to figure out places that we can adjust it? 'Cause
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Council President, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll let you, because this was your line of questioning.
Yeah, I
Councilwoman.
posed a question, Councilwoman Fareed, about what is the city paying in payroll for the upcoming year per the budget? And so what we were told was it's actually itemized by department versus summarized, just complete salaries and benefits, City of Glen Arden equals X, Y, and Z. And the reason why I'm saying that is they are now saying for municipalities that are getting that have gotten $10 million or less of ARPA dollars, we can actually utilize ARPA dollars for payroll. and the monies that we would have used for payroll, et cetera, we could have it more from an unrestricted level. So the reason why I was asking for that was I'm trying to see if it would basically save us save us the time to raise taxes. Just basically what I'm trying to do, what I was trying to figure out. Basically use ARPA dollars instead of raising taxes.
Okay, but I think what what city manager is saying is that like using ARPA funds, this is my analogy now, is like using bonus money and it's not a guarantee. So if we use that to kind of supplement ourselves, then what happens when those ARPA funds run out and now we have to do this? We're going to have to increase taxes even more. I think that's what I'm understanding. City manager to be saying that in 2 years, we'll be back to now trying to figure out where do we come up with, because it'll be more than 444 in 2 years if we keep with the COLA increases, and then we'll have an even larger amount to try and supplement. So we'll either need to increase taxes significantly in order to meet that gap. That's what I'm understanding you to be saying, city manager. Is
Right,
that?
I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding what she was saying correctly before, because I hear where you're going.
Right,
But-
and I hear what you're saying also, and I think for me, the reason why I was looking at it from a 12-month perspective, not the 36-month or even 24 months perspective, is more so from the level of trust that we need to gain back from the citizens who basically don't have trust or faith in the fact that services are going to be rendered. And so I would hate for citizens, which I'm sure it's going to possibly happen either way, I would hate for citizens to say, you guys raised our taxes for services that we weren't even getting, or services that you're saying we're going to get, and we've heard this before. So I was basically trying to say, what if we use ARPA funds, we prove to the citizens that, hey, we didn't raise your taxes, and at the same time, we're also doing this. Hold on, I just saw something in the chat. Oh, we use the ARPA funds, we do what we have to do, and at the same time, the citizens will see that the sidewalks are done, the other things were done that they were saying that were not getting done. But that's just basically what I was trying to do. But I hear you.
Mr. President?
Councilman Herring?
Yeah, I mean, I just ran the numbers and it's $2.7 million in salaries and benefits. So, in the
Yeah,
budget.
that's not gonna work.
But I think what we really we need to look at the realization right now that our tax rate doesn't even cover the basic necessities that we're using now. And if we're putting $500,000 out of reserves to fund this budget, obviously our tax rate is already too low. We have one of the lowest tax rates of all the municipalities in Prince George's County. So, I mean, to continue to pull money out of your reserve year after year, eventually you're not going to have that money to pull out. And I guess my feeling is this, you know, the county taxes our residents and they get absolutely nothing for it. Absolutely nothing. So are they questioning them? The state, same thing, taxing our residents, and what are they getting for it? You know, so I mean, we're trying to maintain a 24/7 police department. We're trying to maintain a public works department. Those are our two biggest budgets. You know, as well as auxiliary services like trash pickup, lights. You know, I mean, we haven't gone up on the assessment for lights in I gotta say at least almost 20 years. And I know the cost of lighting has gone up, but we haven't raised the assessment. We've been taking out on that, you know, ever since, you know, we've been having lights, you know, so we cover those. I mean, at that point you got to be like, okay, $30 is not a lot to continue and maintain services in the city, you know, especially since we're not maintaining them now. And if we decide, okay, we're not going to use any reserve, if we had to cut $500,000 from this budget, the citizens haven't seen nothing when they get, you know, a part-time police force again and everything else that, and one day pickup and no bulk trash pickup. I mean, we give them bulk trash pickup. We give them 2 days a week pickup. County only gives you one, you know, and you got to call and make an appointment for bulk trash pickup, you know? So, I mean, they're getting services, You know, no, we're not Bowie, no, we're not Greenbelt, but Bowie has a $12 million budget. You know, if they want to be a Bowie or a Greenbelt, then they also get taxed way more than we do. You know, so I mean, you're going to get what you pay for. I'm just saying that right now, our tax rate does not cover the expenses that we incur right now for the services that we provide if we're pulling $500,000 out of our reserve fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Harry. All right, Councilman Fareed. Okay.
Sorry, we can just, I was just gonna, I don't know if anybody else had comments, but I don't know if
Okay.
we were gonna vote or not.
There was a comment that was submitted via email that I did not read, so I'll read now as this individual has asked that their comment be read for the record. This is from Lawrence Winston, Mr. Lawrence Winston. His email reads, "A city on the move. We seem to be moving backwards. As I do my weekly walks, I see the sidewalks buckling, creating trip hazards, handicap and wheelchair riding in the streets because sidewalks are not ADA compliant, streets with weeds growing along curbs, streets in Hawkins Manor, Fulton at Reed Street still damaged, in need of repair for years. Sewage drainage incomplete at Glenarden Parkway and Martin Luther King Jr. Highway, and at Glenarden Parkway and Bricey Roads, neighbors complaining that services are depleting. No more leaf vacuuming, unsightly growth at our Welcome to Glenarden signs, no dog waste stations in Ward 2 and 3. We're paying more for less. We can do better than this." And that is from Mr. Lawrence Winston, a proud Glenardener. And he asked that that be read in the record, so that's what I did.
Council President,
Councilman Jones.
with the issues that are on 704, that could be something that the administration could start trying to reach out to the state to see when and what they can do to have the, because where those welcome signs are, it's on state property. And they can have, call the state to find out when they're going to do the maintenance of the side. As I was coming down 704 this afternoon, it's in need of mowing or taken care of. And that might be something that the administration can kind of, I know when we had that issue with 704 in front of the 7-Eleven with the street, Mr. George reached out to the state and got them to pave that area because that area was so bad. And I'm thinking I see a sign up there of a arrow board, as they call it, indicating that looks like they're getting ready to do something. I don't know what. But that's something that the administration can reach out to the state to find out, and kind of press them to get it's from Ardmore Ardwick all the way up to where the last sign is leaving out of Glenarden on 704 is all state property. And that's, they're supposed to maintain that. So.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. Any other comments before we move forward? I'm sorry, Councilwoman Ferguson.
It appears that some more citizens that came on, maybe want to do another run and see if anybody have a comment.
So we're in a discussion for the vote. I don't know if we can go back to citizens' comments. I mean, you can correct me if that's out of order.
I mean, if that's the council wishes, you can. If that's what the majority of the council want to do, since we're on a new part of the agenda, you got to take a motion to see if you want to open the floor up for citizens' comments.
Okay, so what do I do with this motion that we have already open? We had a first and a second already.
Well, we only discussed, we haven't even decided which rate we're gonna even vote on yet.
Right.
We just opened it up for discussion on the whole, whether we, for, against, or whatever. I was the only one that said, I was in favor of the 34, and then there was discussion around on the pros and cons of the 34 versus the 33 and other options.
Okay. Well, hopefully in FY23, we will have a parliamentarian that could keep us in order. But with that, are there any objections to going back to citizens' comments?
No.
Okay. All right. So with that, in absence of a parliamentarian, we can go back to citizens' comments. Citizens, if you do have a comment, please raise your virtual hand. If you do not know how to raise your virtual hand, please unmute yourself and recognize yourself to be called on.
Hello?
Yes. And
Yeah.
could you please introduce yourself?
This is Celestine Wilson.
Oh, hi, Ms. Wilson. How are you
And
doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. And I only heard part of the, I'm sorry for coming in late, but I think that we should not be giving the money back to maintaining the lower rate, because if we maintain the lower rate, we will be giving money back to the state as we did last year. And that money can be going into Glen Arden's pocket, into Glen Arden's bank account, so that Glen Arden can do the things that are necessary to be done. So if citizens want sidewalks done, blah, 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 then we would have to go with the higher rate in order to be able to maintain the way we would like to maintain. Yes, we have yes, there are a lot of things that need to be done, but it also takes money to do it. And we can't just really lay back and relax and count on the ARPA funds, because from what I'm understanding from the meetings that I have attended, there are plans are steadily being made for those funds. Programs are being planned for those funds. And so if we're able to go for the higher rate, then that would be more funding that we would have in order to do the things that the projects we want to do. And if I understand, I think I heard Mr. Herring say something about it's about like $30 per household. Was that correct, Mr. Herring?
Yes.
Councilman Herring?
Yeah, something like that.
Right, that's not a lot. $30 per household is not a lot of money per household. Go out to the carry out and spend $30. So I'm just saying that we make it seem like it's a lot of money, but it's really not a lot of money. Everybody put that $30 together, then we'll have more funding to do sidewalks. We'll have more money to do other programs that are needed for the city. So that's my opinion. That's my comment.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Armstrong.
Good evening. Wanted to know, who do I contact regarding some work being done on the end of Johnson Avenue where the pet station is? It's hard to get to the pet station now. I think there's a lot of mud around there and had made the rocks move, because I used to step on the rocks and able to get to the grass to the pet station. Now it's really inaccessible right now. So wanted to know who do I reach out to regarding that?
Ma'am, you can reach out to the administration. I think City Manager Barber is writing your comment down now. This part of, and your concerns are very important. Ms. Barber will get back to you. I'm sorry, what is your email, Ms. Barber? Yeah, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry. So my email is cbarbour@cityofglenarden.org.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. And for this portion of citizens' comments, we are more focused on the constant yield tax rate. If you do have a comment related to something else, please feel free to email the administration or the city council if it relates to legislation. With that, I'll move over to Ms. Smallwood.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am in agreement with taking the high end of the constant yield rate. I was against the lower end rate last year where the city gave $77,000 back to the state. I'm opposed of them trying to give money back to the state again this year. So if you're gonna give that much money back to the state within 2 years, it's looked like we almost gave back $200,000 to the state, where that money could be placed in our cushion in case of emergencies. And y'all got all these high salaries in the budget. And then you want to give away money. Then I looked at the budget, you're trying to pull all this money out of our savings to cover the budget, which I think is totally wrong. You need to cut the fat out the budget before you start pulling money out of your savings. And if you want to use the ARPA money, my question is, how are we going to pay these high salaries after all of the ARPA money is gone? I mean, you got to put stuff in the budget where you have money to pay these budgets, because these going to be reoccurring bills from expense from 1 year to the next. If you're going to raise all these high salaries, you need to make sure that you have money in the budget that you're going to be able to pay these salaries from 1 year to the next. And the other thing I'm kind of worried about, I heard tonight that y'all putting money in the banks and in the budget for merit pay.
Ms. Smallwood, so we're going to have a public hearing on the budget, and your comments are certainly important to the budget conversation.
All this with the constant year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all my statements I'm making is still deal with the constant year.
Okay.
If you're going to raise the constant yield, you're going to have money in the budget. I mean, if you're going to lower the constant yield, you're going to have to find out where you're going to put money in the budget to cover giving back to the state. Is that correct?
That is correct, Ms. Smallwood.
All right.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Okay.
Council President, I've had my hand up for a while.
This is for citizens' comments,
I'm
Mayor
a
Cross.
citizen as well, sir.
Mayor Cross, you've already identified yourself as the mayor, so this was just solely for the citizens. Any other citizens' comments? Okay. With that being said, then we'll move into, I guess now would be just, I don't know, would it be out of order to do a consensus? Because oh, well, I'm sorry. This will be passed via an ordinance, correct? Council members, or a resolution?
When we vote on the budget, it's usually listed in the budget as what the rate we're voting on, but we still got to report out to the county.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Harry.
No, I was just saying the rate you need. That's why we normally just do a resolution so that we can show what rate we're accepting. And then when we do the,
Okay.
we put it in the budget, when we vote on the budget by ordinance, it'll accept it also.
Okay, so the ordinance comes via the budget process. All right. Great. So I do have that resolution ready. Okay. Councilman Fareed.
I just wanted to know before we vote, I'm not sure if the mayor had comments or if she was providing additional clarity into the budget and kind of the conversation that we've been having around what can be cut or not. I don't know if what she wanted to say might be relevant to the vote.
Yeah, and that's fine. We're going to come back. That portion of the meeting was just for citizens' comments.
Okay.
Now that citizens' comments are done, then we're coming back over to our side. So if the mayor does have something that adds to the discussion of the constitutional rate, then we can hear the mayor. But that portion was just for the citizens. So with that, Mayor Cross, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. So yes, my comment is tied to the constant yield rate, and I really wanted to speak to clarity on the utilization of the ARPA funds for that. One thing that we can do to help, but it's not built into the budget. So I just wanted to add some clarity to that final rule. The final rule allows us to construct, for example, in this rising crime environment, we can construct new facilities to decrease the crime. So we could use some of this ARPA money to actually construct a police facility. And inside of that, with that police construction, potentially bring forth the cars in that respect as well. So if you want to save some money on 3 police cars, you can't just say 3 police cars. The final rule actually deals with construction and expenditures associated with public health and economic response to that. So public health as well as homeless shelters. And also we could utilize it when I say homeless shelters, we could utilize it to support the facilities in Glen Arden Housing Authority. So in response to Mr. Winston's letter, we could utilize some of the funds for that. But relative to the constant yield rate, the increase that we're going to propose, that we're proposing, being able to do more with it. There's a $10,000 input for beautification, and that's something that the citizens have been asking for over the last year. And that affords us to start to right-size some of the concern in Mr. Winston's letter. I just wanted to highlight those as things that we really need in our city to get moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Cross. Okay. Any other comments before we move forward with the rate? At this point, I know we're kind of late in the game at this, and you guys can help me with the structure of this. So we can do a consensus and then do the resolution, or that you just want to move forward with the 34, I'm sorry, was it 3481? How about this? Anyone opposed to moving forward with the 3481? Okay, so I will put that into the resolution as I read it. And I'll share my screen. Make sure I have the right one, sorry. I do not have the right one. Give me 1 second. Okay, now I can share my screen. Can you see my screen, Ms. Ferguson? I see you on my screen. Can you see the resolution?
Can you make it a little bigger?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Clerk, what resolution number would this be?
This would be resolution R 51, 2022.
Okay. Resolution number R 51, 2022, sponsor Derek Curtis, Council President, co-sponsor through Custom Administration. Public hearing. It should be the 7th. It should be the 2nd. Thursday, June 7th, special regular session, date of introduction, Tuesday, June 2nd. A resolution increasing the real property tax rate for FY23, whereas the city of Glenarden proposes to increase real property taxes, and whereas the tax year beginning FY23. The city sets its constant yield tax rate at 0.3481 per $100 assessed. And whereas the city of Glenarden proposed to increase the real property tax rate, and now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in special session this 7th day of June, 2022, that the city of Glenarden adopts a real property tax rate of 0.3481.
Point of order, Council President.
Councilman Jones.
Line 24 should be corrected to special regular session, because that's what this is. Thank you.
And we have this in here twice. Okay. So with that, we'll go back to the motion on the floor to accept the constant yield tax rate as is stated, as advertised and stated in the budget as 3.3481. The motion, oh, well, I can redo the motion. Can I have a motion to bring to the floor for a vote?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Guillaume, second.
Second.
Any final discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, the roll call to pass the resolution R 51, 2022 with a constant yield tax rate of 0.3481.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Councilman Harry,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston,
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fareed,
Yes.
Vice President Ferguson,
Yes.
President Curtis.
Yes.
We have 7, this is passed.
Right. With that, that is the final item on the agenda. For everyone on the call, the budget hearing, which I know is a hot item in the city, is set for June the 16th at 7 p.m. So look forward to seeing you there. And with that, time is 8:17. This meeting is now adjourned.
Y'all, have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.